On any given day, there are 2.7 million children who currently have a parent incarcerated in America. And over 10 million people have experienced a parent behind bars at some point in their lives. This is not a unique story. This is a part of the American story. From the lenses of young adults, this podcast explores the harm of poverty, mass incarceration, the beauty and resilient relationships, and the pain of fractured bones. Join our co-hosts as they enter the sanctuary with our guests in this episode of If Only You Knew.
If only you knew, the first time would be the last time.
Hi, Mia. How are you? I am Tianna. Welcome to our sanctuary.
Hi, I'm Zenayah. I'm not going to act like we didn't met.
Okay.
You know, we all cool. We all sisters. And this is If Only You Knew.
So I'm happy to be here. It's a long time coming. It's good to see how it actually manifested itself. This is cool. We work really hard.
Yeah.
So my If Only You Knew is more so about, I met my father for the first time. I was working at McDonald's at the time, and he came into the lobby, and I was really excited to see him. You know, this is my dad. I'm meeting him in the flesh. Mm-hmm. From a very young age, it was always letters and phone calls. So I never really had a face to put to the name. I had letters, pictures, you know, phone calls, and it was tough in school, more so because, you know, Father's Day, daughters getting picked up by their dad. I always saw a great, like even my best friend, she had a really good relationship with her father. Mm-hmm. So it always weighed on my mind, but I had such a great mother. Like she just took on the role of everybody. So it was like, you know, and she always had a platform for me to express myself. Mm-hmm. So I never really had any emotional negligence. You know, I wasn't ignored as a child. I was a part of the conversation. I was allowed to talk and express myself. But I never really understood that father-daughter relationship or that first experience with your father. Like, I didn't necessarily get that. I mean, there were people that stepped up in that place, and there were people that took on the role, but no one was my dad. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
no one was him. No one was him. You knew him. Like, you wanted him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my father's charge was, and he was charged for rape. So it was very a touchy subject. My mother never moved as to where, okay, he's a criminal, he's this, he's that. Never spoke bad on his name. Always spoke very highly of him. Anytime I would visit my family or my dad's side of the family, they would tell me, oh, you look so much like your father, or you have this like your father, you know, you run fast like your dad. And it's like, I've never met this man in the flesh, but I look so much like him and I run like him and all of these various things. And it was not necessarily an infatuation, but it was like this. I was intrigued to know this man, and I really wanted to understand. Soul family is one thing, you know, the family you choose, your friends. But a year after meeting him, that's when I really saw how a lot of the dynamics happened. My father was a ballet dancer, professional ballet, and he was coming from a neighborhood where you didn't have black ballet boys. You know, you played basketball, you played football, you didn't do ballet, right? So he had talents that there wasn't really a platform for him to be able to execute these things. Like Nipsey Hussle says it best when he says, you know, in his song, I don't have the specific name, but he says, you know, he knew deep down you can't faze him, like, but he had no platform to show, like, where his skill was at. He had no place to go to, and ballet was that for him. Ballet was the place where he could execute, you know, his not only great physique, but, you know, his talents and his skills.
Artistry.
Yes.
His mental, even still, because I think that folks with your mental, but yeah.
And so, like, this dynamic of wanting to always run away from home, my grandmother, I don't want to put everything out there, but she, in her recent years of her elderly age, she was in a car accident, and her brain was platted on the sidewalk and put back into her mind, you know, and to readjust back into society, you're a little different, you know, but even before that, dealing with domestic violence and having, you know, the breadwinner, she had her own business, you know, very independent, but at the end of the day, you need two heads of the household. And so, without having that team player, or without having that man that was there, that was caring, that was loving, that was doing these things, you know, they had the trauma. And trauma is something that is so deeply rooted in our community that even abuse and, you know, we tolerate for a long amount of time. So my grandmother tolerated it to be able to raise her 3 boys and her girl, leaving her girl with her grandparents and allowing her to be, you know, around a woman, an elderly woman, and get the grandiose, you know how grandparents are, they make you grand. And so just seeing the dynamic of how she's overcome all of her trauma, but isn't able to, in this lifetime, still with her sons, connect on a certain level. Like, of course, you're the mother, you're the portal, you brought life into them, you brought them, you gave them life, but they never fully understood what she was going through. You don't understand when you're younger watching your mother get abused, how it has an effect on you. You don't really you feel victimized because you're not able to. And I don't want to put words in my father's mouth, but this is my observation of it. This is how I analyzed it and made sense of it on my own journey. And so with him moving forward from leaving home and going to a prestigious school, you know, where he didn't have any allies. He only had himself, being a young person and having to advocate for yourself and having to put on your big boy pants and have these conversations without your mother there, without your father there, or any adult to, you know, kind of back you up. You get pushed to the side as, oh, you're just a kid, you're just this, you're that. It's not validated in the same way, so I want to say something to that, but I'm going to finish this up first. And so he ended up in a situation, I don't know the details of the situation, but it was a Swedish exchange student, and he was in school. I don't know what the severity of it was. There are so many stories. And dealing with my father's family, there's always this stigma. You know, your father, you know, he has this rape charge, you know, you might have something. So there'll be ways where they'll look at me in certain ways just because of, you know, your father was that, you might be that. Not necessarily, oh, you this, you that. No, but you still feel that.
Yeah, so under the rug.
Yes, you still feel that.
You get that judgmental feeling every time that you're around. Your father's not there, but you are there, so you're going to get that feeling of him with you, like a connected piece. Yeah.
Exactly. And so fast forwarding to present day, like when I was going through school, I always felt my mother was working very long hours. She had to be the breadwinner, of course. She was chasing her dream of being an artist, and everywhere she went, I went with her. So, I had a great childhood. I did. Like, even though I didn't have my father, it was great. It really was.
Like, of course,
we had our ups and downs. Like, I'm not going to say it was all, you know, roses and daisies and things, but we had our ups and downs. And so even in school, I saw myself not necessarily acting out, but
doing
acting
things
out. You know what I'm saying? So one of the teachers, his name is Mr. Kim. He was my Korean teacher in Democracy Prep, which was a school I went to.
That school still stands.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. You have to learn a foreign language, so I was not too good at Korean. You know what I'm saying? We could talk about the grades, but he said to my mother at a parent-teacher conference, right, he was like, you know, your daughter can use her powers for good or for evil. And that stuck with me for a long time because there was always this fight in between that stepping up and being a leader and being in the sidelines and just observing, you know. I can be an introvert, I can be an extrovert. I don't necessarily, I feel as though that relationship without my father, it kind of did
put you on that sideline feeling.
In a way, like I didn't feel deserving of things. I didn't feel like I could be a part, or what I was saying would resonate, or if it was a full truth, because I wasn't acknowledging my full truth in ways. A lot of the time, like, I was very angry for a long time about not having my dad. And that anger was masked up in, you know, acting up in school, whatever have you, using various outlets to try and numb a certain pain, and running away from the fact that this is affecting me. This is affecting my day-to-day schedule, what I do on a daily basis, how I think, my inner voices in my head, how I move in relationships, you know, or even with friends, like having a certain trust issue or abandonment issues, and just all of that coming up, and having to just say, okay, you know, you can take this one day at a time. You can allow whatever message that is for you to come to you and digest it as needed. You don't have to feel as though you have to be 100% all the time. Like, there are going to be days where you just have to, okay? And in school, that would be one thing I wish I would have just done, like, been present. A lot of the times I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be, you know, older. I wanted to be, and now I want to go back to those younger days.
You wanted to know something, you wanted to know things that you didn't know. Like, at a young age, like you said, you was always in the conversations, but you still wanted more. Like, you know, you always was like, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? And sometimes you wish you could have probably just took it slow and processed. And that's understandable. That's definitely understandable.
Moment, you know, and really, like, healing and understanding my inner child, what her dreams were and what they still are, and how we're going to get there moving forward. Because at the end of the day, we can sit here and talk about how my dad wasn't here or how my mother was working too much. But at the end of the day, it's still our decision to move forward, and how we look at the trauma and how we open up about it. Because acting up, you know, a lot of the times, yes, we do want our education system to be more empathetic and to hone into each individual. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to your inner. Because once you fully understand and you fully get, okay, this is what happened. These are the puzzle pieces that needed to be put together for me to understand why I was doing that. And I went to therapy, you know, I went to various programs on speaking out on incarceration and policy reform, policy changes, and just always, in a way, I was always chasing my father through whatever avenue it was. I was always chasing my father.
Right. It wasn't. So do you feel as though they helped you, or they kept pushing you to chase your father? What do you think the therapy and the programs did for you? In a way, do you think like they settled you a little bit? Like, okay, they're helping, we're talking about things, you know, I'm going to keep pushing, it's going to be okay. Or do you think it chased you more to him? Because I know sometimes talking to people, talking about it, it could just chase you more and more to him. So which one was it for you, or was it both?
I could say both, because me understanding through these programs, me going into the research and looking at the numbers, but not only the numbers, looking at the stories, not only the stories, also having the conversations. It was like, okay, each layer is adding its own part of the lesson. And it was causing me to know, okay, I understand how this caused this, but I also understand I need to meet this man. You know what I mean? It was also like everything really came full circle. I don't want to sound redundant, but everything really came full circle. Like, I can look at it now and say, okay, I had to go through these different painful situations to fully see how, okay, what part can I better play? What part can I better do? What is on my part, my responsibility? But also looking at those red flags, looking at those various experiences for what they were. Like, going back to even the policy reform. When I was doing the policy reform, a lot of it was on corruption and governmental corruption. A lot of my poetry revolves around corruption and the government's fault. And it's always pointing a finger at the bigger person. There's always somebody else doing something that's going to cripple us. But at the end of the day, it's still that choice to see that perspective change. Yeah. Once you switch that perspective on things, it's like, oh, okay, well, I didn't have my dad, but I had a whole soul family. I had a whole tribe of Black women that made me love being a Black woman. Like, you know, made me appreciate universally, no matter what, I could understand not only the Black woman, but the woman, you know? And through my father, though he went through a lot of traumatic things, understanding that Black men are in ways traumatized. They do need to be handled a different way. Not saying we need to handle them like victims.
Or babies.
Okay, but coddle them or, you know, enable things.
But just
because
humanizing them. Humanizing, just understanding that they are human. Exactly. So I think you get on a good point with that, like just understanding that, like I said, we know they have to be treated differently, not too differently. You know, we're not going back in the back in the day where you got to treat them completely, but we are trying to normalize that they do have feelings, you know, that they are normal. So that's definitely important to understand.
Yeah, there's so many like tiers in this space. Like this is an overwhelming space right now, but in like a good way, because there's so many things we could talk about. We could talk about the absence of the Black men in, you know, young women's lives, which we can all attest to, or we could talk.
Father.
Yeah,
it could be your uncle, sister, brother.
Yeah, okay, we could talk about like the chase to like catch things, or I don't know, catch spirits of people that are not there that we can't access. Like there's so many things we can talk about. But as you were talking about your story, like, you know, the core is the fact that, you know, a Black man wasn't there. And I can also relate to that. You know, my dad left, or whatever term he would think appropriate. But for me, it's left. So that's what it is. When I was 6, I don't know if you share any similar stories. That's a commonality, common denominator.
Right, it is a common denominator.
So as all 3 Black women who went through a similar experience, focusing more so like on you, obviously we know the effect that it had, but how have you handled that now, and how did you handle it back then? Because for me, like, I don't know if I ever handled it. Like, it happened to me, but I don't know if I ever went back to that 6-year-old and healed her. And I can't speak for you. We can't speak for either of us, but like in terms of you, how did you deal with that? And if you haven't, like, what are you doing to heal with that?
Goodness, that's a question. I'm excited to answer it, because it's like I had to definitely understand when and where my inner child was wounded. That was I had to go back to that very moment, or that very time where I felt like I was neglected. I felt like I was abandoned. I felt like nobody saw me, nobody heard me, nobody wanted to deal with me. Like it was like, go in the corner, you bad, your mama not here, your daddy not here, we don't want to deal with you. Like I shout out to my Auntie Beverly, first off, because
talk about them aunties, boy.
Okay, she was Caribbean. That's why I can resonate with you, because she was Caribbean. So I know exactly what you're talking about with that emotional kind of. She never really liked to hug. She didn't do the kissing. She didn't say she loved me until I was like 18 or like 17. Like, but she definitely taught me how to have not necessarily use my emotions as a crutch or as something that would hinder me. She was a very strong woman, even dealing with her own mother issues and then raising her own kids. It was like I watched her break the cycle as I was, you know, sitting in her home being babysat. You know what I mean? Watching cartoons and eating whatever she would make. She made you feel like you were family. You know what I mean? And she did that while my mother was at work. So if I didn't have my Auntie Beverly, you know what I'm saying, to tell me, oh, why don't you take better care of yourself? You're a pretty girl. You know what I mean? That's the closest thing you got to a compliment from a Caribbean woman. Like, but you knew it was love because you spoke her unspoken language. And it was definitely, for me, identifying where I felt like, again, I was abandoned. And that for me was when I was in school a lot of the time. I always felt like I was at a battle with the teachers or like for the authoritarian kind of thing. Like me just asking a question that didn't have to do with the syllabus or me, you know, trying to
understand something better.
Have a conversation, talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody learns differently. Yeah. And I had to finally accept I was different. And I had to walk in that because in walking in your truth, you don't know who you're inspiring. You don't know who you're, you know, what you're invoking in other people by just living in your truth. Let me answer the question. So definitely going back to where I felt most wounded and detaching the pain from it. That sounds like a lot, but it's really that perspective change that we were talking about earlier when we're looking at it not half empty but half full. I had to stop looking at it as to where, okay, why were they always picking on me? But more so, okay, you were really responsible as a young person, you know, but you did act up. So that's people calling you out on acting up, you know. Be more responsible. Be more mature if you want people to take you more seriously. So it was more so accountability on my part. I always wanted to be accountable because I'm representing my family. Even though my family is not here right now, my mother might not be here with me. My Auntie Beverly might not, you know, I'm still representing my home, where I was raised, my household. And a lot of the time it was just remembering who I was and learning who I was as well, effectively. If you don't know who you are, especially like where you're from. Black people, a lot of us, we don't know where we're from, what our last name really is.
Like dig down in the history, like where it came from.
We know as far as down south, you know, I got a couple cousins down here, a couple cousins down here. You know what I'm saying?
But where does it really grow at? So where do I grow?
To Africa and see, okay, I come from this tribe, my people were this, we did this, this. And we might not get it in this lifetime. You know what I mean? But it's effective in knowing who you are. It's effective in knowing what you represent. It's effective in knowing your history. Like even that I know my great-great-grandmother, even that my great-grandparents, you know what I'm saying? They had 60 to 70 kids. So I know I have family all over the place if I would just connect the dots. Family reunions are so important. Because that's how we got to see, okay, this is the Pitt side, this is the Fox side, this is the McLaren, the McLean. You know what I'm saying? We got to see our family, exchange recipes, and do the simple things. And sometimes it really is just those simple things. Okay, what else was the question? I think I answered it. Did I? I did.
I think so, yeah. I didn't answer it. Yeah, you did.
I just had to check. I know I could ramble. I just had to make sure.
One thing about me is she gonna give a prophecy.
Okay. A little something real quick.
She's gonna make it make sense. Okay.
Gotta get off the chest.
Right. So another question I have for you. So with, like, I know school and everything, did you ever, like, find something that, I know sure that, you know, their ballet was different, you know, that was different. Did you have anything that was different for you that you found, like, question. That was different? I mean, because, listen, we're human. Like, we love to be different. Yes. I mean, not putting your business out there, but, you know, if that was different, what was different about you? Like, we know that people in school, you know, they didn't bond too well with you and stuff like that because you were different, which is great. But what else? Like, what made you, like, detach you from, like, your dad, made you?
Yeah, just to add on to that before you answer, like,
okay, go ahead.
you talked about, like, how you knew you were different, and, you know, it could be part of the reason why kids picked on you or why people didn't understand you. And, you know, in your story, like, there's a lot of misplacement, or not even misplacement, but just, like, placement onto somebody else, you know? Like, your dad's circumstances inevitably made you different to the beholder's eyes. Exactly. But just to echo what you said, like, the main question is, what makes Mia different apart from her dad, apart from her mom, apart from her family?
Yeah, because you was always with your mom. Your mom took you everywhere.
Yeah.
But what was that difference like?
How do you separate yourself?
Okay, for me, my dad likes to say I'm a perfection of his imperfections.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's smooth, dude.
too.
I ain't gonna lie. Okay, what made me different? I would say I knew how to communicate. Mm-hmm. I knew how to use my words. Like I could,
you do.
You know what I'm saying? I knew
powerful.
How to
you said what it was, stick it to it. Yeah.
And a lot of the times people were thinking it, but they didn't want to say it just yet. A lot of the times, like even when we were talking about the question, it's no dumb question. You raise your hand. Elias was talking about that. Like you raise your hand, you ask a question. 10 other people were probably thinking that same question. So it was just, I guess I was always the one that likes to break the ice. But then again, vice versa, I could always be the one that was just quiet. Because I would always feel like, okay, you're a talker. Sometimes you just need to listen sometimes, because sometimes it is just listening to someone. Someone needs you to just hear them. Aside from my mom and my dad, they are artists. I'm an artist too. Like, I really am a love child. They were really in love. What made me different? I don't know.
We can come back to it.
This is tough. Yes, come back. Y'all got me. Y'all got me.
It's hard to think about it. They be like, what make you do? Me, different. Let me think. Because my hair look like this. Like, I don't know.
What's going on? Yeah, I think definitely communication was one of them. And also perspective. I would say I could always be able to not necessarily have a unique perspective, but I always wanted to have an outside-the-box perspective. Like, okay, let's bring in something else so that we can then start mixing it in the pot and see what else we get with that. Definitely because I love collective energy. I love raising the vibration of things. Like, I just like leaving a signature. Like, at least we were, we had a great conversation. We made great connections. We answered questions. We got the information we needed, and we're leaving satisfied, not drained, not feeling like, oh my goodness, did I say the wrong thing? Did I, you know what I mean? You're leaving confident on what you had to say, and you're speaking your truth. And your truth is heard. A lot of the times, people listen, but are you really listening to what I'm saying? Are you really hearing what I'm saying? Are you seeing where I'm coming from? Are you putting yourself in my shoes?
That goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's just about, like, sometimes we don't feel like, we have everybody, but we also feel alone. Like, are you listening? Are you are you understanding? It's one thing to listen, but do you really understand, like, what I'm actually trying to say? Or sometimes we feel like, is it just me? Like, am I overthinking? Like, we get into that overthinking mode. Like, as women, we overthink a lot. So we like, is it just me?
It makes sense.
Right, does it make sense? Right, like, never mind. Like, don't worry about it. Like, we'll come back to it.
And we negate the whole thing,
right? And then we take that whole thing and
it's
just
like,
turn
no, you was on the right track.
Right? Because, like you said, always listen to the gut feeling. Listen, you got that gut in your heart. You like, I'm right. Like, I know I'm not sure, but like, I know this is how I feel. But, sometimes it's, how others make us feel and how we, respond to others as well. To what they say, we might, take that, believe everything, and we put our own little twist to it. So I think that's definitely a good point of how, different see, like, us and that thinking process. Because I know you're a thinker. I can tell, like, you always want to go, you're thinking of new things, like, well, why this and why that? So it's very important, like, I like that.
Yeah.
Ladies. Okay, I think I got it from my mom and my dad. I think I got it. That fast. Wow.
It's all right. I got a new question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a new question for you. Okay.
He's going to come back.
Yeah. So let's say, like, there's another young person like yourself whose parents or just anybody close to them, is under accusations of X, Y, and Z thing, no matter what the severity is. What would you say is, the first step to handling the situation? And then overall, if you had to, like, encompass your journey, what would be the message? So, like, what's the first instinctive thing you would say to them? And then, being able to step outside of yourself and reflect on your own journey. What would you tell them?
Message.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, so when I was in high school, there's a woman, her name is Miss James. Shout out to Miss James. It was a credit recovery school, and I had been left back in the 9th grade, and then I was getting left back again in the 10th grade. In the charter school I was in, I'm not going to say the name again, but in the charter school I was in, I had an IEP, so an individualized education plan. And really all that means is you just need a little more time to sit down, a little, you need a teacher to stand with you and just, help you a little bit.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ain't nothing wrong. But moving into how I had been to rehab, I was doing, I was running away from really just understanding who I was, what I had to step up to the plate and do, again, just really smoking a lot of weed and not going to school. And it was taking a toll. I mean, I got left back 2 times. Come on. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's terrible because I knew I could do better. Yeah. Like, I know I'm not. That could have been. That's not me. That's not who I am. And moving in towards the credit recovery, I had 3 weeks left of school. You feel me? I was either you finished up what I had to do in those 3 weeks, or I was going to have to come back another year and do a whole school year. And Ms. James pulled me to the side and was like, you're not doing another year of school. I don't know why you're trying to self-sabotage. And that's what it was, self-sabotaging, because I didn't feel like I deserved it. I didn't feel like I was worthy. See how it keeps coming up throughout the whole lifetime. Like, I'll be up, then I'll be... So this is a lifetime journey. That's another thing I'm going to say. And I ended up graduating. I finished and I graduated from high school with the same diploma I would have gotten from that charter school. So that was a really like, girl, you can do it. Like, stop doubting yourself. And one thing I really wanted to change about my mindset then was allowing it to become what was being projected on me, and volunteering. My father likes to say that, volunteering for victimhood. People volunteer for a lot of the things they feel comfortable with. People volunteer to be put in the same situation just to have something to complain about, just to have this sabotaging behavior that is so, I'm used to this. I'm comfortable with this. I want to stay in this cycle of, and I was like, no, this is not for me.
It's time to break it. It's
time to move forward. It's time to reimagine. My mother, when she left for college, it was the same thing. They wanted her to settle down, you don't need to be doing this, you don't need to be doing that. And she left for New York and chased her dream. So all in all, I share these stories to say, change that inner voice, no matter what the outside is saying to you. And also to take time to learn yourself. Because we're always evolving. Every day there's new information we're taking in. There's new things, new perspective, new ways we can look at things. So take time with yourself. Be gentle, be kind. That inner voice inside your head should not match the same voices that are on the outside. It should be different than them. It should be encouraging. Definitely affirmations for self. Listen to frequencies. Oh, my goodness.
I'm trying to do all that right now.
Frequencies, guided meditations, even if you're going to sleep, play a frequency before you're going to have the best sleep of your life. I'm telling you, I'll be knocked out, okay?
That peace of mind, like, just close the day out, evolve, just think like, okay, I did good today. Start thinking about what you did good out of the day. What did you accomplish today? Like, what good came out of the day? Not what went wrong, what I got to fix. We got to start taking time to just think of the positive things that we did, because I know sometimes we look at the negative things all the time. I know for me, I'd be like, I could have did this better today. Like, this is why I had a bad day. Let's start thinking about why the day is good. What do we do to have a good day? Like, that's very important, because sometimes we do install not really negativity, but we install the negative things in our head and we try to fix everything. Well, let's fix this, let's do this. But sometimes we just need that peace of mind to say, let's relax from the day. Let's take a day off, And I commend you on that meditation thing. Like, some people like meditation, you're not listening enough. It's just quiet. Yep. Sometimes you need that peace and quiet to really process everything. Like, sometimes you need it. I didn't think that at first. I said, I was at one meditation. You want me to sit there? Like, it's crickets. Like, I can't hear that. But sometimes them crickets is what you need. You need to hear it in your head. So,
take a moment to just be present. Like, that was one thing I really wanted to be implemented in my old high school. Like, for there to be meditation instead of you sitting in a quiet room, filling out a form that's blaming you, you know, even though in certain situations, 99.9% of the time, you cannot be wrong. Like, we don't have a flaw, you know what I'm saying? A flawless system of judging who's right and who's wrong. So for that to just be what the reprimand is or the punishment is, on a psychological level, you're always blaming yourself. Like, these things are being instilled in us. If I'm sitting in a quiet room reflecting on only things that I've done, I have to wait for an instructor to come in and speak with me when they're ready. You know what I mean? You see these various levels of, and it's not necessarily about the power struggle or about the power pyramid or the, about being superior to someone or that inferior kind of thing. It's about connecting with a human being. At the end of the day, you are setting the tone for the rest of this human being's life in a way. If we understood that our interactions, basic interactions day to day, imprint on someone for the rest of their lives, you wouldn't think certain things that you're saying or certain, you know, books, poems, songs, those are timeless things that stick with us forever and resonate because they speak on a universal. They speak on something that a collective energy can understand because it is energy. And these things do need to coexist within all of our systems. We do need to understand that energy, perception, the way we look at things, the way we prepare ourselves and get into our own flow of things, each individual learns differently. So if we learn differently, we're going to prepare our day differently. Not everybody is going to have the same routine. We have a one-size-fits-all system right now in everything, in every aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? We don't have a lot of, I want to say, oral teaching or textile teaching or getting up and getting interactive. Now, you know, now we're having meditation being implemented. And these are strides to make. These are things that we do need to do, but it's also about understanding the importance of those things, understanding how they need to be used. Like, we have a whole box of tools, but we don't know how to use them. It's useless. If we know how to effectively use a screwdriver or learn how to use a jackhammer or whatever. I don't know too much about tools.
Listen,
you know what I'm saying?
They might collect little dust, but, you know, we'll figure out a manual. We'll figure out how to use it. It's a manual. See,
it's a learning process.
Like a manual teaches you how to do it step by step by step by step. You read it and you'll understand a little better. You take what you learn and you apply it up here, maybe good.
So y'all heard it here first, you know. The first step is really fixing your mental and making sure that your energy is transferable. But even though it's transferable, you know, you have to makeshift it to different people. You got to switch it around. And overall, you know, healing is really important. And not just healing between you and another person, but with you first. Because if you don't heal yourself first, you can't do anything with anybody.
How you gonna approach it?
You can't. You can't.
You gotta be right
you gotta
with yourself.
You gotta be right with
Any
yourself.
kind of change. Like, Michael Jackson said it. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, don't let me mess up with Michael Jackson.
They gonna haunt you in your sleep.
You know what I'm saying? I've started with the man in the mirror, okay? I'm asking him to change his... Girl, go ahead on. Thank you, Michael. You know what I'm saying? I'm asking him to change his ways. You have to start with the man in the mirror. One man could change the world. You set the example. You set the precedent. You set the tone of what it needs to be. You are a living example. You know what I'm saying? You are a living example. You know what I'm saying? Right. Y'all are living examples.
We are a living example. Exactly.
As a whole, so it can happen. Conversation is healing. You know what I'm saying? Speaking on things is healing. Feeling your emotion is healing. All right? You can heal anywhere. On your smartphone, you know what I'm saying? You can heal sitting there, taking a deep breath. Healing is not what the one definition is, or the Webster definition or dictionary definition is.
About what you feel like your healing is. Okay. It's up to you to define your healing and what you need.
I got one last question for you before we close it out.
Yes.
So I think it's very easy to read the room and, you know, see how mature Mia is and, you know, just how transformed and wise. Like, anybody can be smart, but to be wise beyond your years is a whole different thing. And not a lot of people are there yet. Like, and that's okay. Like, you know, people commend me for being smart, for being diligent, for getting past my boundaries. And, you know, some may even call me wise, but, you know, that has to be self-proclaimed. And I think...
You are.
Thank you. And I think...
all of y'all are. Stop playing.
And I think you're at a point where you can self-proclaim yourself as wise. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I just really, I want to get the message across.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Manifest the message. Don't kill the messenger.
So my main question is, you know, if you had to go back to that, I don't want to say damaged child because...
Inner child.
Yeah.
Wounded child.
Yes, wounded inner child. You know, what would you tell her now?
I would give her a big old hug, for real. I would pick her up, spin her around real quick. I would tell her, love yourself, because it really came full circle. I used to have locks when I was younger. You know what I'm saying?
You seeing yourself in a circle.
I'm coming back to who I originally was. And that's what it truly is. Coming back to who you originally truly are meant to be in this lifetime. Because you're supposed to be you. Don't get it wrong. You wouldn't be here if you weren't supposed to be you.
Right, but sometimes that 360 we turn into someone else and we have to get back into ourselves. Exactly. And that's real.
Exactly. Mercury retrograde, y'all. For real.
One more question. I lied to you last time.
Okay, go ahead.
One last question.
Yes.
So, you know, inspiration for your story is your father, obviously. Can't forget that about the story. You know, we all here to tell our story. That's a big part of it. If you were able to see your dad, like right now, in this space, imagine none of us are here. Or imagine that we're here. Whatever makes you comfortable. What would you tell him?
You are a strong Black man, okay? I see so many aspects of you within me. I understand why you are the way you are, but I will not enable bad behavior. We don't allow bad. That's one of his favorite quotes too. We don't enable bad behavior, and we're gonna heal no matter what, whether that's with ourselves, whether that's through guidance. And you are so strong, Black man. I'm so glad you allowed me to be able to tell your story. And even though right now we might not be on the best of terms, I know that no matter what, you rooting for me, and I'm rooting for you. I am. I truly am. I love my father. I do, but time.
Time heals all.
Time heals all. Time heals all. It really does.
Thank you.
And you're a great inspiration. But that's my story. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mia.
Now you know. If you don't know, now you know. Okay?
Y'all heard it here first.
Hi, my name is Mia. I've shared my story with you. Now you know. And if you want to share your story, feel free to. We have resources available if you want to know how to deal with certain things or educate yourself and brush up on a couple subjects. If you want a peer support group where you have like-minded people that are able to give you the support that you need. Sometimes with our parents and even with our family, we're unable to get the support we need. So we need it from our like-minded friends. If you want a mentor, somebody that's older than you, that's not your family, someone you don't know, someone that you can get to know and help groom you on the journey. Well, not groom, but, elevate. We have an Educator Resource Center, and that's for if you're a teacher. If you're a teacher and you really, really want to take your teaching experience to the next level and really leave a mark on your students and be able to do healing, not necessarily like you're a therapist, but everybody plays their part. And conversation is healing, as we've seen through this podcast. And we also have our website, Instagram, TikTok. We will be on social media. You will see us. So just know that the resources are here. The help is here. Just reach out. That's what we did.